Life Audio.
Welcome to But Jesus Drank Wine.
And other stories that kept us stuck. I'm Mead.
And I'm Christy.
In this podcast, we'll explore the stories that kept us, stuck, wanting to drink and not wanting to drink, all at the same time.
Join us as we show you that freedom from alcohol does not have to mean a life sentence of misery and missing out,
but actually means living an authentic life full of peace, joy, and purpose.
Hello, welcome. Hi, friends. How are we doing? Welcome. Happy Monday. It actually is Monday. We're recording on a Monday and we're releasing on a Monday. That's exciting.
Hopefully not the same Monday.
Hopefully not. No, not the same Monday. However, I have been using my tretinoin and because we're back from summer and my skin is peeling off. And so for the YouTubers, I apologize. Welcome, Lauren. We're so excited to have you back.
Is this our first part 3?
It's our first, I think it is our first part 3, right?
Yes.
The story just keeps going and going.
Yeah. Word continues. I love a good multiple parter.
So Lauren has been with us twice on episode 21 and then again on episode 109. So if you haven't listened to those episodes, please bookmark them. We'll also link them in the show notes to listen to those again. The first one is Lauren's story as she was in the beginning stages of being alcohol free. And then the second episode, 109, is this amazingly powerful episode about how she let go of moderation as the goal. And I don't know about you, Mead, but I send that 109 around. 109, are you out of your mind? All the time because it is such a good one. And then we were chatting together when we were in Colorado and we were just sitting there. I think Mead, you were outside with Kelsey and I was sitting at the breakfast table with Lauren and she was just reminding me of parts of her story that I just wanted to talk a little bit more about. Because one of the things that we get asked about or is commented in the community a lot is this idea of using alcohol to slow down. And so today I just really wanted to talk about rhythms and pace and what that looked like for you before, what it looks like now, and all that kind of good stuff. So welcome back. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to be back. Okay, so this is a topic that I didn't really get insight on until about a year ago. But I was on a real big John Mark Comer kick, and I was reading The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And I recognized my old self so much in that book. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it.
So good.
It is so good. Basically, and this is quoting directly from the book, but he says, hurry is the great enemy of spiritual life in our day. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. And then this is another excerpt from the book. Corrie ten Boom once said that if the devil can't make you sin, he'll make you busy. There's truth in that. Both sin and busyness have the exact same effect. They cut off your connection to God, to other people, and even to your own soul. And I didn't recognize it at the time when I was still drinking, but the pace at which I was living was 100% part of the problem. And to make a long story short, I mean, I had a full-time job. I had 2 very small children. My husband worked full-time. This was pre-COVID, so I was in the office every single day. I wasn't exercising. So I had no sort of outlet for my stress relief. I wasn't reading the Bible at all. And I was just literally running from one thing to the next. And there's a really powerful illustration in my life, and this is sort of what made Christy think that this might be useful to record. But if you go back to episode, what was the first one y'all said, 21? That is, I go a lot into how my heavy drinking was related to my dad's death, which was on Christmas Eve 2021. But 6 months prior to that, on June 1st of 2021, I had a really bad fall. And I was just leaving work. I was leaving work and walking to my car. It was a normal day. I I work in journalism. At the time, I was working for a newspaper. We always had a staff meeting at 4 p.m. And I would leave the office and go. I live in Charleston, and there's bridges everywhere. So I'm on the peninsula for work. I cross one bridge to go pick up my infant daughter from daycare. I cross another bridge to get back home. And on this day, I was going to cross a third bridge after I dropped my daughter off to get back downtown to have dinner with friends, where, of course, I was looking forward to 1 or 4 glasses of wine. But at 4:15 or whatever, when that staff meeting ended, I was just walking to my car and probably walking quickly. And I fell on the sidewalk. And it was a flat sidewalk. There was no obvious reason why I fell.
You weren't in heels?
I was in sandals that had a block heel, but it's not like I was
Yeah.
in stilettos, you
Right.
know? And they were very comfortable shoes. I was carrying a bag on my shoulder that had all the things in it, and I fell on that side. And when I fell on the sidewalk, I think all the weight of my body must have landed on my elbow. And my things scattered, and I screamed just out of, I think, shock more than anything else. And there were these 2 women who had been ahead of me, and they must have been walking to a yoga class or something, because they turned around, they heard me, they turned around, they stopped. I think they called my husband. It was clear I couldn't get off the ground. I knew I'd broken my arm. It was incredibly painful. So they called the EMS. The ambulance came. In order to get onto the stretcher, they had to put me on a stretcher. I had to have a shot of fentanyl on the sidewalk just to get up off the ground, just so they could move me. So I'm taken to the hospital, where I assume I'm going to have a cast put on after I get x-rays. I get x-rays. The doctor comes in and she says, "We're going to have to admit you." I was like, am I living in the Twilight Zone? Like, I've broken my arm. I'm in a lot of pain. But she's like, "No, you're going to need trauma surgery." It was such a bad break. It was multiple breaks. I also had a cut up here. I had some stitches. It was such a bad break that the trauma surgery team needed to have their time freed up so they could operate on me. And it was like a 4-hour surgery. I got an elbow replacement, and my forearm is a metal rod with several whatever in it, nails, pins, whatever. And it was literally traumatic. I couldn't drive for 6 weeks. I wasn't allowed to pick up anything heavier than a cell phone, which you can imagine is difficult with small children. I wasn't even allowed to work for 6 weeks because, like, what if I wasn't cleared to work by the doctor, because what if I had to pick up a laptop or something? I couldn't do anything. And it was so depressing, is too simple of a word to describe what happened. It was depressing, but it was so disorienting to go from like a high functioning, like able-bodied adult to someone who was like at least temporarily disabled. And obviously that contributed to my drinking. It like impacted my marriage. It impacted every aspect of my life. To this day, I cannot straighten my arm, and I have trouble doing certain exercises because this whole side of my body is weaker. But in a way, that fall on June 1st, 2021 launched a period of 13 months that were very dark for me. And then on August 1st, 2022, I stopped drinking. So I just think that, and for a long time I thought, this was God striking me down. It felt divine. Like it felt like he needed to stop me in my tracks. Except when I read that John Mark Comer book, and remember, I only read that book a year ago. I was like, oh my gosh, God didn't strike me down. I fell into the trap that Satan had set for me. And it's because I was just rushing from one thing to the next. And there wasn't anything special about June 1st, 2021, except that I was a little bit busier than normal. But I was always busy. I always felt like I
Mhm.
was rushing from one thing to the next, and that I when did I when did I have a chance to even like sit down? I was if I had a chance to sit down, I wanted to sleep. I used to take naps all the time because I was exhausted. And anyway, it definitely it just definitely it's so clear to me in hindsight how that contributed to the overwhelm that I felt. And just the pace at which I was living my life was disconnecting me from God and driving me to drink, basically. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
that's like it's so relatable, babe. Not the
Yep.
necessarily exact story, but for the women that feel like they're just running on fumes and obviously need to slow down but don't know how to, and how as you said, disorienting that would feel just to be like stopped in your tracks. I remember thinking that when I would get a migraine, right? Like before I stopped drinking and when I was living when I was living a different life of just like having to sit in even the dark for the afternoon, how frustrating that was because I couldn't do things. To be fair, sometimes I think that when it happens now. But when you read the book and you were talking about how you realized this was you before, what has kind of like changed and how has leaving alcohol behind helped you then keep this new kind of pattern, this new pace? And it might not be perfect. I know mine isn't, but what does it look like now?
Well, one thing is I got a new job. That's really, really helped. I work from home now. I work from a newsroom that's based in DC, so I work remotely all the time. So my schedule is just a dream. I think God honestly was setting me up for success because I got this job about 4 or 5 months before I stopped drinking. That has been huge, huge. Also, I'm actually rested now. Even though I was sleeping so much more back then, my sleep was not great. I
Mhm.
woke up every single night. It's such a cliche, but I did. And it wasn't a neutral waking up, it was a waking up full of shame, right?
Mhm.
It was sort of a thought spiraling in the middle of the night. And so, like you said, like I still have 2 kids, we still have busy schedules, there's still a lot of things to juggle. I still have a full-time job, but the pace is totally different. And part of it is just being able to actually, when my head hits the pillow, sleep in a meaningful way has been huge. But changing jobs, huge. And yeah, both of my girls are also at the same school now, which is really, really helpful. Yeah. I will say that there were things that happened that definitely helped. And yeah, the pace that I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like no wonder I drank so much. I mean, it was just I spent 8 hours of my day in a building, like just working for someone else. And I do, like I said, work full time now, but working from home for me is just it's so much better just for quality of life and parenting, and it's more sane. I would come home and my this is when office where I used to dress up to go to work. So like that's an hour beforehand every day. I would come home and immediately walk to the kitchen, like make dinner in heels. It was crazy. And yeah, I
It's
was
crazy that you
just
didn't take off your shoes before you started making dinner.
I felt like I was always rushing, and I
Yeah.
was so resentful of my husband who owns his own business and has all this free time. And I would say quietly resentful, but I was not so quiet about it, actually. I was just outright jealous that I was doing all these things and having to be pregnant and having to go into the office all the time. And yeah, it's like the smallest things would just throw me into a tailspin.
I can so relate to that. I mean, just the hurry. I read that book in the fall of 2020, And so I was already free from alcohol. And I was reading that going, oh my gosh, this was my life. And it makes so much sense why wine took up such a bigger and bigger space in my life. Because if you think about the depressant effect that is alcohol, when you are constantly on in that hyper aroused, go, 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 hustle
Yeah.
state, like at some point, you need something to switch that off. And
Right.
it made total sense to me how that contributed. I hadn't, until I read that book, I really hadn't considered how that was part of my being stuck with alcohol story and how that just pairs together with the physiological response that alcohol causes and all of that. I'm curious if you had awareness. I know it took like a whole nother year for you to address alcohol, but did you have awareness at that time that that was contributing to just your overall state of
Yeah. Something that you just said, like when I was standing there in the kitchen making dinner after an 8-hour workday in the heels,
yeah.
that's when I was pouring the wine. Like that's what made it all, well, that's what I thought made it all manageable.
Yeah.
That's how I like could keep going. But there was a growing awareness that alcohol was not helping. And that fall, so it must have been in August. So the accident was June 1st. That August, I read Quit Like a Woman. I was just interested,
Yeah.
but I read it, I think, a little bit secretly. And I think that was around the time when Chrissy Teigen had posted something about that book online. And I was just curious. And I was like, okay, well, if Chrissy Teigen posted it, it's mainstream enough for me to be, for like, I don't have to have a problem in order to read it, right? So I think I like checked it out from the library and I read it. And I mentioned it in a conversation with someone. And they were specifically like, well, are you reading it because you think you have a problem? And I was like, oh, no, no. I'm just like interested in the science or something. So that was August. And then in September is when we found out that my dad was going downhill and
Mm.
needed to be referred
Yeah.
to hospice. So it was sort of like there was like a flicker of something,
Yeah.
but then everything really fell apart, like
Yeah.
from September to December. So it was like, okay, every other problem, I just I can't possibly address this right now. Like when it felt like my world was falling apart. And so then he died, and then essentially it was 7 months later that so anyway, to answer your question in a very long way, yes, there was a growing awareness, but I wasn't ready to walk away.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's so interesting because when I was stuck like that too, I did not think I had a choice. I did not think I had a choice in slowing down. Everything that I did, I thought was something I had to do. The effect of alcohol and just living in that kind of like autopilot fast-paced mode didn't give me the option to even consider how everything was a choice. I just wasn't making it consciously, like what I was doing and what things I could shift and change. It wasn't until I really the pain turned up on the being stuck with alcohol that then it was like, oh, and that allowed me to get curious about everything else. And I think that's something that some women, they are in this place of awareness about alcohol, and they're also in this place of like, oh my gosh, like I am living this super fast paced life and
Mhm.
I want to slow that down. And it feels really, really big to tackle that. But I think that's the beauty of the work that we get to do. We get to be curious about those things and open those possibilities. So I was just kind of curious from that standpoint, like for the woman who is maybe not even aware, maybe she's stuck with alcohol, but she's not even aware of how her schedule, her busy, her hustle is maybe contributing to that
It's
desire for wine.
it's so hard. I think it's so hard for women in particular because I don't know. I just think it is, and we bear so much responsibility in terms of raising children and running the house, and it feels a lot of times I plan every vacation and buy every Christmas present and every birthday present. And then at work, I have a stressful job, and it it really did feel like when I was drinking that alcohol was the thing that helped me relax, certainly more than any anti-anxiety medicine I'd ever taken. And it was like, why would I eliminate the one thing I enjoy? But it is the thing that was making everything so much harder.
Yeah. And can you just speak to that woman that has said, thought, posted, I drink to slow down? What would you say to her?
That's a good question. I would ask her about her quality of sleep and her mental health. Because if you're having trouble sleeping and you're riddled with anxiety, in a busy schedule certainly contributes to those things. A busy schedule does make you tired and it can make you anxious. But alcohol is going to destroy your sleep and increase your anxiety. And so if you're struggling with those two things, I think it's worth asking the question if alcohol could be contributing to the problem. It's not necessarily intuitive because it does feel like at the end of the day, when I would walk in and walk to the kitchen and start making dinner, that alcohol was the thing that instantly relaxed me. But it was also the thing that was waking me up in the middle of the night. And it was the thing that was fueling my anxiety and bouts of depression, all of which is not solved, but so much better now. I had a lot of anxiety about that it causes cancer. I did, and that was a growing awareness that I couldn't ignore anymore. I would say it's hard, but it's worth being curious about. I think that everyone is better off as a non-drinker, honestly, but I don't think that I knew that probably not going to, it's not going to happen for everyone. But I would say, even just becoming curious and asking questions and finding information about it can be a good starting place, even if you're not anywhere remotely close to wanting to walk away from it.
Imagine stepping into a vibrant, warm community where faith, friendship, and freedom from alcohol all come together. That's exactly what you'll experience in the But Jesus Drank Wine community.
Each week, our members gather for connection calls that feel like a breath of fresh air, a time to share, grow, and support one another.
With an encouraging leadership team, a dedicated prayer request space, and connection opportunities in every time zone, you don't have to walk this journey alone.
Plus, we bring you masterclasses with expert guests, optional book clubs and Bible studies, and so much more.
And for those ready to go even deeper, we offer a small group coaching space called The Missing Piece. With weekly recorded coaching calls, it's a supportive place for women committed to breaking free from alcohol.
We're here to hold space for sober and sober-curious women who love Jesus or are eager to reconnect with him. Wherever you are on your path, you'll feel seen, supported, and strengthened here.
As one member described, quote, "The BJDW community is unique because there's a connection between faith and freedom from alcohol that I haven't been able to find in any other online space or through my church."
Ready to join the sisterhood? Head over to butjesusdrankwine.com/community or click the link in the show notes to learn more. We can't wait to meet you. Yeah, that's so good, babe. And I think too, it's one of those things where I don't think that we stop to think about and ask ourselves too, is how we can be then intentional about making our lives less busy and not
Yeah.
more busy. And there was a one-on-one client I had for a while where that was literally all we did once a week. She busted out her diary. I'm like, what are we taking out? What are we taking out this week? So that you don't feel like you're so maxed out to the point that you cannot survive without alcohol because you need that to slow you down. And so, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say I had a breaking point with this earlier this year. And now keep in mind, I'm like 3+ years into this, but my breaking point had to do with planning a vacation to Walt Disney World. And at one point,
That could be a breaking point for anybody.
this was
Let's
mine.
be honest, okay?
I set an alarm at midnight. At midnight, must have been in January to make reservations for Bibbidi Boppity Boutique.
Mm-hmm.
And the next morning, I had an alarm set for 6. This is a Saturday, to make all of our dining reservations. And that morning, I said, Brent, I'm done with this vacation. I'm not planning a single thing of it anymore. In fact, I'm not planning our daughter's 6th birthday. I'm not planning Valentine's Day. I'm offloading. I'm offloading. And that took me I'm into this journey, but like I don't have to do everything. I don't. And it is not my responsibility to keep every single ball in the air.
Yeah.
Maybe this is my tiny Tina. I don't actually forgot to think about one, but we got this tablet now that's attached to our refrigerator. I think I was talking about this at the retreat, called a skylight. And instead of me keeping all the
Instagram
things,
really wants me to buy that.
who does?
Instagram, it literally serves
Yes.
up that ad for me every 5 minutes. Yep.
Yeah. Well, anyway, instead of
Maybe
me
they'll
keeping,
sponsor this episode.
You're
instead
happy
of
to
me
try all of
keeping
them
the
out for
things
you.
in my head all the time, now all the things are on a screen on the refrigerator. I am not responsible for all the things. That has, like I said, I'm not completely there yet, but we're making progress, and yeah. But it's there's a lot going on. There's a lot. There's eye appointments today, and a haircut for school pictures on Thursday, and there's stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
It's
think
still busy. It's still busy, but it's different.
I think two of the biggest stories that kept me stuck in my journey, all of it, the whole thing, were that I can do it all and that I need to do it all.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, the freedom from alcohol journey and the alcohol exodus and return to Jesus journey has broken down both of those stories in the most beautiful way that gives me peace that I can live differently. And although things are still so busy, I don't I don't have to do it all, and I don't need to do it all, and I really can't do it all. And so I know personally, I just relate so much to this conversation because I know it's something that I'm always working on myself. And now when I can like step back and go, okay, God, what do you want me to do today? Where do you want me to go today? What appointments am I supposed to take? How am I supposed to use my time? It's a lot lighter, it's a lot freer. And I don't always get it right, but as long as I'm kind of seeking him and what he wants me to do, it certainly makes it a lot easier. And it's how we're meant to be versus where I was living before. Like I can do it all and I need to do it all. So I'm also just like curious, what are some of the real practical, other than like sky, like what else? Like what are some other little ways that you're
One thing that I used to do when I was working at this newspaper where I had to go in 5 days a week is that I would almost practice the opposite of a Sabbath. Like Sunday was my day when I had to get everything together. I was vacuuming out my car, I was filling out the gas tank, I was planning every single meal and shopping for it. I was doing all the sheets, all the towels, all the laundry. And that way I would be ready for the week. I was also very, very resentful of every other member of my family who was enjoying their Sunday. What I have realized now is that I do not have to do all of that on Sunday. I can go to the grocery store in the middle of the week. Like, I don't need to plan out every single bite of food that every member of my household is going to put in their mouth between this Sunday and next Sunday. I can let go a little bit. I do still get, there's funny reels about this on Instagram. I get very uptight before the housekeepers come. I'm like that crazy woman. It's like running around the house.
Pre-clean?
Yeah.
Pre-clean before the cleaner? Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
I'm
I have
like,
no
why is
idea what you're
nobody
talking
else
about.
worried about this?
I am. I worry.
That is one
Only
thing
time that Ella picks up her room is literally the Wednesday morning before our beautiful Julie comes.
That is something I need to let go of. Me, I am a work in progress. But yeah, I would say like actually using my Sunday for rest.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying like I am like the perfect Sabbath practicer. I probably could take it down a notch. Still, I don't
Progress,
have a
progress.
checklist of things that I need to do. That helped me. Letting go of that helped.
I can't believe you haven't talked about cross stitch.
It's needlepoint. You
Needle
keep getting
pointing.
it
Sorry, I'm
wrong.
sorry. Needle
They're
pointing.
different. Who knew?
They're
Well, I
so
know she's
different.
only told me this 7 times. Can you please talk about how needle pointing has helped you?
It is it's such a deep relaxation for me. Um,
Obviously, I love it so much.
yeah, it's like meditative almost. Back when I was at this newspaper or was going in 5 days a week, I had a therapist who suggested that you should try meditation, and it was good advice, right? But do you know when I could fit it in my car? I'm sorry, into my day, in the car, in the parking garage, before I went into work. Like that was the life I was living. Like that
Yeah.
picture alone, that's when I could find a quiet spot. Like that was not sustainable, clearly, right? This is I usually do it at the end of the day or when I'm traveling. Traveling can be triggering for a lot of people who are sort of journeying away from alcohol. You always have something to do with your hands. It's great for an airport. I find that at home I can be in the chaos of everyone around me and still find like this quiet sort of center. And also, I think I mentioned this maybe on the podcast that y'all aired last week or the week before, but like it also helps me, I think, subconsciously sort through a lot of things have been thinking about through the day, so that by the time I actually go to sleep or I'm in bed, I've done all of that sorting of the thoughts. Yeah, I love it. I only started doing that this year, and I really, really like it. I started in January, and so the last time I was on the podcast was right at the beginning of January or the end of December. Anyway, we were talking about word of the year, and my word this year is create. And honestly, needlepoint was not on my radar, and here we are. It definitely fits in with the word. I've sort of started thinking about what my word might be for next year now that we're nearing the end of 2025, but I haven't settled on
No, not
anything.
yet, because I feel like I still have so much work to do on my word.
We have time.
There
We
is
have
time.
the whole quarter. Yeah, I haven't settled on anything, but it's something I've started to think about. Yeah.
What about your practice of journaling? And also, I know it's maybe not directly related to slowing down, but I know it helps you find peace. Is your
It
noise
totally
cancellation
does. So
something?
yeah, I I wake up at 5, which sounds extremely early, but I'm also going to bed at 9. So I'm still getting 8 hours of sleep, but I'll wake up at 5, which is about an hour before everyone else, and I'll pray and I will do a Bible reading that gets me through the Bible in a year. So I did the Bible recap. I think I talked about that on the last podcast. And now I'm sort of just following my own reading plan and not reading any commentary along with it. And then I'll do a short little 1 page devotional. And then I will journal. And the journaling almost always consists of a gratitude list. Today I am grateful to God for, and list several different things that are on my mind. And then if I'm having trouble working through something, or if I found myself sort of fixated on something, I will sort of work through a lot of that. I'll write out prayers. And all of that takes, between 45 minutes and an hour. But I just find that it is the perfect way to start my day. And it's something that I look forward to. I do it with a cup of coffee. Like truly, if it's not something that I found deep joy in, I wouldn't get out of bed at 5 for it. So I think that it might not work for everyone, but it's something that I really love. I love starting my day that way.
And I love that you say that so much, because what we don't want this to come across as is a laundry list of things that you have to do in order to
Yeah.
slow down.
And I didn't start doing that right away. I've
Yeah.
started that in the past year. This is a long arc here.
Yeah.
When I think I've said this on one of the previous episodes, but like when I stopped drinking on August 1st, 2022, I wanted to do all the things all at once. And it doesn't really work that way. But slowly, the transformation has been real. And I shared these pictures in a group chat of ours, there was a picture that a friend of mine took of me the week before I stopped drinking. So this would have been in the end of July 2022. And then she just took another one of me this summer. And I had not really done that side by side comparison before. And I was just completely shocked, completely shocked. Like I looked like a completely different person. And maybe that was me projecting sort of a little bit too, because like I could see like the pain and sadness and just brokenness in my eyes in that first picture. But yeah, the transformation has been slow and steady, but real.
Well, and when you anchor your day with the right thing, Jesus, like good comes from that period. Like it just doesn't really matter. It matters what else we do. But when we're anchoring our day that way versus I know when I was stuck before, when in the hustle and the alcohol cycle, it was, I mean, there was no margin. It was always rushing to the next thing. There was no margin for anything else. And it was something that, like, if I thought of as a discipline of consulting my Bible, picking that up or praying, like it was something else I had to squeeze in. And that's some of the greatest learning, I think, in all of this. Sounds like for you, it was for me. I know, like, Christy probably can relate too, but it's like, wait, no, that's what we get to do. And when we start that way, then everything else is easier because time with the Lord will not produce void. And so, yeah, like it's not something we have to add in. It's something that we get to do and see how it might, as
Yeah.
we make more room for Jesus, how does that crowd out alcohol? How does that make alcohol smaller and smaller?
I totally agree. Back when I was drinking, waking up at 5 wouldn't have been something I would have even considered doing. It just was not. After a poor night of sleep, the last thing you're going to do is wake up an hour earlier than you need to. And another thing that I am conscious of, so that my time with God is not like a checklist, is that if I miss a day, it's okay. It's not
Yeah,
like
it's good.
it's not like I need to check it off my list. It's not like I need to fit it in some other time. And sometimes it makes sense for me to fit it in some other time if
Sure.
I have a gap in my schedule or something, but it's not like an obligation. Like you said, made it's something I get to do.
Well, and I
And
just hear, sorry, I was just going to say, I just hear so much less rigidity. Like that's the word that keeps coming up to me in your story and is so relatable to me. My life was I was so rigid. I bounced. I mean, all the great mind people, Dan Siegel, like talk about bouncing between the banks of rigidity and chaos, and like in the middle, in the river is where we
Mm-hmm.
want to be, where we're like my life was so much rigidity to keep the chaos at bay,
Mm-hmm. It felt
which
like everything was going to fall apart if it wasn't
yeah.
all like
And there's so much freedom in the flexing and flowing now where it's like, yes, I know that this helps me start my day and that's what I'm anchored to, but also when I miss, it's okay. Like that to me sounds like freedom. That sounds like peace. That sounds like the goodness that we're all really searching for, the relief that we want, but we think is, found in other things.
I was talking recently with a client and I was trying to explain this, and maybe this is going to land and maybe it's not, but I realized that one of the things that made my life feel so busy and fast and overwhelming as well was the fact that I had to quote unquote get kind of everything that I needed to get done in the day squared away and done so that I could start getting that bottle open and I could start drinking those glasses before, a ridiculous amount of late hour of the night. And so it really did contribute to my like day to day as like another got a race kind of to the wine bottle thing. And
Hmm.
because I literally started my exodus right before the world shut down in March 2020, then the world did shut down. And not only was I not drinking, but I also wasn't rushed. And I just remember at the end of every single day, I would literally I can't describe it in any other way just but feeling like I was vibrating at this like wild rate, nervous that I was somehow missing something, late for something, needed to get something done. And I started getting to the point where I was having to remind myself I'm not in a I'm not in a rush because there's nothing in a rush for. I don't have to get 4 glasses or 3 glasses of wine in me before 10 o'clock, right? And I don't have to rush home and I don't have to get everything done so that I can start drinking. And I didn't realize how much of an impact that had had on my dysregulated nervous system
Yeah.
until I stopped drinking. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
totally. It takes like your nervous system like months to catch up with your new reality sometimes.
Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
can we talk for just a brief second about speak to the woman who feels like her busyness is a badge of honor and productivity is a badge of honor, and that's where worth comes from? And because I very much had a story that absolutely was true of me. Like yeah, like I can't, I'm not allowed to sit down like that.
Mhm.
I mean, then I would be lazy. So yeah. Can you speak to that? If that's relatable to you, Lauren? Like, can you?
Oh, I don't know if I have any advice. I mean, that's like the culture we live in almost. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, I would say for to what end? Like, you
Yeah.
know, I don't know.
How's it working
I've
out for
I've
you?
yeah, I've
Yeah.
switched my perspective on that though too, right? So when someone's like, "Oh my gosh, and this and that and this, and I'm so busy," da, 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 like before, I would see that as, "Oh wow, that's a really, you know, cool gal with a lot going on, and she's busy, and therefore she's whatever." You know
Important.
what I mean? Give it
Yeah.
some sort of importance of badge of honor. And now when somebody says that, I have a friend, she still does it. Like, God bless her, but she is always so busy. She overpacks her schedule. She overpacks her socials, her kid stuff, her works, everything. And and we've talked about this before, that comes out in like crazy ways. And now I'm just looking at that whole her whole dynamic, and I'm just like, well, that is a choice, and she doesn't see it as a choice, right?
Yeah.
She sees it as a have to.
I'm reading this new Elizabeth Gilbert book. It's called All the Way to the River. And I might be misquoting her, but there's this one part where she's talking about how like the only socially acceptable answers for women when someone asks, "How are you?" is "I'm busy and I'm tired." And those two
Mhm.
things are not really feelings. And so like it might be more comfortable to be busy than to actually be still.
Yeah.
Because in
Mhm.
stillness,
Sure.
stuff comes to the surface that
Yes.
you might not want to be dealing with, that it's
Yeah.
uncomfortable to deal with, and that can be really scary.
Yeah. It's an
So,
avoidance strategy. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think then can we also talk for a second about how the woman who fears then that not drinking will be too still or like boring, right? Like we
Mhm.
hear a lot of that all the time. I'm bored. I drink because I'm bored. What would
Yeah.
you say to that, Lauren?
There's a
Yeah.
fear that, yeah, without alcohol, then I'm going to be bored.
Yeah. I mean, you might be, but I always go back to what you say, Christy. Like, is it boredom or is it peace? You know?
Mhm. I did not know that the difference
Hmm.
until I did. It's one of those experiential knowledge things.
I mean,
Yeah.
but I've always loved to read. Reading a great novel is can be such a beautiful escape, and you learn something. And so I would suggest getting really into books or audiobooks or needlepoint or there's so many options, but it totally might feel boring at the beginning. I think weekends especially can loom very large if you're not filling them up with alcohol. But I wouldn't go back.
Comes down to like our definition of what boring is, because
And I
I
never think
can't.
that
Yeah.
Yeah.
anymore. If
Yeah.
if I'm bored now, I'm never like, man, I really wish I had like alcohol. Like in the beginning, I think those feelings are completely natural,
Mhm.
but they don't last.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's like such a good point. One of the things that's been so massive for my family that is kind of still new-ish, but we've been doing Screen Sabbath. First of all, like rewind. I think that reading through the Old Testament has been such a great, wonderful reminder that the Sabbath is for us and for rest, and there was a reason that it was so important to God.
Mhm.
And so one of the things, much to the teenagers' chagrin, most Sunday or Saturday nights is I go around with a box and I'm like, phones in the box, screen Sabbath time. And what that has opened up for us is just like family walk, more like more time together, but for just like when you create that space, we'll end up playing a board game or whatever it is. Really obviously connecting that like the way that you do when your phones aren't around. And so for gals that are looking to slow down, that has really helped. It really helped me.
Yeah. Boredom becomes that birthplace of like intentional connection with
Yeah.
people versus, escaping to devices, which we're just also conditioned to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is that if I look at my week ahead and I see that it's really jammed, I will try to be intentional about taking things out or moving things so that at least there's like a block of a morning where I have nothing, because obviously we want to give so much and all the things that we have for our community members and our coaching gals and everything, but like we also have to do that from a place that's full. So, yeah.
Monday mornings.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts, Lauren?
Can't think of anything. I feel like I've talked a lot. I'm sure that we'll have to start storing up ideas for part 4.
Yes. Let's
We would love that.
go.
We would love that. Yeah. Thank you, babe.
Thanks
Thank you.
so
It's
much.
just such a beautiful reminder that we don't have to hurry, that we don't have to. I mean, Lauren and I text constantly as a joke of like, when are we going to move into a monastery and become monkettes and just like shut out the world and pray all day? And I forgot to tell you this. I said that the other day at Bible study, and all the gals were like, really? And I'm like, no, yeah, like that sounds amazing. Like maybe not for months on
Ever,
end,
maybe
but
not
like
forever, but like for a few months. Yes.
it sounds
mean,
kind of
yeah.
nice just to be quiet and pray.
Yes, I agree. A week
Yeah.
would be great.
Which again, if you gals that are listening knew me before, you'd be like, who is this person? So that's only God. But yeah. Any final thoughts, Mead?
Y'all should come here and go to my silent retreat day that I have coming up in October.
That sounds
Silent
amazing.
retreat day.
That sounds amazing. Thank you, Lauren. You're the best. We love you so much. Come hang out with us, gals, in the community. We're always there and we love you. See you next Monday.
Bye.
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 Before we go, if you're craving real connection and want to talk more about what we've shared today, come join us in the BJDW community. It's where these conversations continue, and we'd love to welcome you in.
You can find all of our podcast episodes at butjesusdrankwine.com. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at butjesusdrankwine.
Take a screenshot of this episode and share it with a friend or two.
Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you love what we're doing, we'd be so grateful if you left a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Your reviews help more women who feel stuck and alone in the overdrinking cycle find the hope and encouragement they've been praying for.
Finally, we'd love to shout out the incredible team at Life Audio for their partnership with us at the But Jesus Drank Wine podcast. We invite you, dear listener, to visit lifeaudio.com, where you will find dozens of other faith-centered podcasts in the Life Audio network. Shows about prayer, Bible study, Christian parenting, and more.
Thanks, friend. We appreciate you so much, and we'll see you next week.